All right. Obviously, got a good opportunity against the Saints this week, but wanted to just, acknowledge how tough the injury is for Michael. My heart breaks for him. He's someone who has handled adversity so well through his football journey, and unfortunately he's having to do it again. But I'm very confident he has a lot of good football ahead of him, probably more good football ahead of him than behind him for sure. And so he has a lot to look forward to. But unfortunately, he's just going to have to be patient with it. But, tough deal, and we'll be supporting him as he goes through his rehab process. We're just looking forward to going against the Saints and trying to get back on track here and get things going in the right direction. But I can take any questions you have.
Kurt, the coach talked about tailoring things for you and so forth. How much of it will be what we saw last year in the first half of the season, and anything you all going to try to build on off of that?
Yeah, I think we'll try to have a good plan that we're all comfortable with and feel like can help us kind of put our best foot forward offensively. And so much of it is week to week in terms of what we feel is the best way to attack that defense that week.
And you talked about stacking plays. How important is that as you all try to get some consistency?
Right.
You got 3 touchdown drives and then
right.
and then 95-yarder in there. But
Right.
how do y'all stack the plays to get the offense humming like that?
Yeah. I think it's you'd like to avoid penalties, but even on some of those drives that we had, we overcame penalties. And so when you have the penalties, trying to overcome them. It's the challenge of all 11 of us executing at our absolute best, playing and play out and stringing it together. And when you do that, you tend to come away with points. When you don't, you tend to be leaving some points out there. So that's always the challenge, and that's where it'll be on Sunday.
Kirk, what's the kind of emotional state of this offense right now, just given everything that's happened, and how do you kind of see your role in terms of maybe helping us that?
Yeah, I think it was tough on Monday. I didn't know. I actually thought Mike might be good to go this week because he was so tough coming back from the first time. So when you found out that it wasn't going to be something he could just come back from and practice on Wednesday, it was like, But I do think there's a lot of resilient people in our locker room and a lot of guys who just have positive attitude. And we said it somewhat jokingly going to Berlin, how when you play internationally, you can complain about the red eye there and the red eye back and the different challenges that take you out of your routine, or you can just stay positive. And so we said positive vibes only, PVO. And so I think that's important to just stay positive through whatever happens in this league. And when the season starts, you're going to have challenge, you're going to have adversity, and when you face it, you got to be ready to handle it well.
Kirk, you and Darnell Mooney had a really good connection last season. He has probably not had the best year, so far with injuries and so forth. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of help him get going a little bit this weekend?
Yeah, I think again it's so week to week in this league as to what you do, and he had a tough hand dealt to him with the collarbone, even going back to last season and then training camp, and so you kind of have to build from there. And I'd love to see him, really be able to take off here in the last stretch of the year. But it's so week to week as to how you emphasize things, what you focus on, and you never know who the hot hand will be that week.
This is the place last year where you hurt your shoulder and elbow. Any part of you personally just want to go back there, flush out that memory, maybe leave that building with a better feeling, better memory?
Would love to. But nothing is deserved or given in this league. You have to go take it. You have to go earn it. And, that'll be our opportunity on Sunday.
And I know that when you left this starting job, you weren't playing the way you wanted to be playing. Do you look at these 7 games as an opportunity, not necessarily to remind people who you are, but maybe to remind people who you are?
Well, every time you go out, there's an opportunity. And, I kind of take that approach even – if I had started, 150 games, you're 151st. You take it as another opportunity to go, out there and show you belong and play at your best. But never really took it for granted, but certainly when you're out for a little while and now you're back, you understand that it is a privilege to play, and you certainly want to make good on another opportunity.
How can it help you now? Like, obviously it's always hard, I feel like, as a backup, because you're just kind of thrown into the game. But now that you know that, like, this back half is yours, like, how does that help you mentally?
Yeah, it's. I think that is the challenge of being a backup. Is you say, boy, I didn't get any reps this week, but I could play 99% of this game. You just don't know how it's going to go, and the unknown can be difficult. That's the life of a backup quarterback. I think not having that unknown gives you a different feeling, certainly. But then you also have what comes with knowing you're taking snap one, and that has its own challenges too. So, you kind of have experience as a backup, have experience as a starter, and you try to lean on both in both roles.
When Zach was in here earlier, he mentioned that you were cracking jokes already and walk through. Is that kind of the positive energy you're trying to bring and get the team's mind in the right place before Sunday?
I do think it's important that you enjoy what you do, and so yeah, I think it's important that if you never want to lose focus, and there is a hyper focus that has to be there at all times. I know for me there is, and sometimes having that hyper focus, you can forget that it's a game. You can forget that you got to have fun, and I do think I play my best when I'm having fun, and I can find that sweet spot between the hyper focus and having fun, cracking jokes, and so you try to find that balance, because I think it's when you play your best, and I do think that's part of my role as the quarterback is to bring that.
Is there anything that you worked on kind of, even just kind of mentally during this time where you were the backup, to kind of find that sweet spot of having fun and being hyper-focused?
Yeah, I think even going back to last season, every year, every experience you have, you learn from, and I think last year there were lessons learned, and was able to start unpacking that as early as probably even late last season or early in the off season, and working through the off season just to try to better yourself, not only as a player but as a person, and so it was all, it's all been learning experiences, and I know these next stretch of games will be a learning experience as well that you just keep building from.
I really started against Miami, but I guess it goes back to mid-December when you actually knew from Monday on that this was going to be your start. What difference, maybe comparing it to the Miami game week, what does it make, knowing from Monday and on, and including today, that this is your offense?
Not too much of a big difference. I think you go through your normal weekly process that makes you feel ready for Sunday, and whether you're the backup or the starter, you try to go through that routine regardless. And whether you're named the starter the day of the game or a week before, you just try to have that routine and lean on that, and that's usually what makes you feel confident and comfortable.
How are you doing health-wise?
I feel good. I think Led doesn't believe me much when I say that. We have a past history there, but I do feel good, and I would never tell you if I wasn't, probably until the season's over.
Going through rehab yourself, what advice have you given Michael during this time?
Yeah, Mike's been through it before, and that's why I say he's a resilient person, and it's amazing because he is so athletic. Even having gone through the knee, he's got some of the best numbers in our weight room that we measure the explosiveness. So that's where you know that he has great football ahead of him, because that the injury before never really limited his athleticism, and I don't expect this will either. So I think he's got a lot of great football ahead of him. And I remember one time we were walking out to a game together back last season. I said, "You ever get nervous before games?" He said, "Not really, because I've been through so much, and that when you've been through so much, you just kind of enjoy the opportunity." And I thought that was a good word from a young player, that perspective. And I'm sure he's taken that same perspective now. But that's why your heart breaks for him, because he has been through so much, and he does have a good perspective. And that's where, when he gets back out there, we'll be pulling for him and expect big things ahead for him.
This offense really seemed to be clicking the first 9 games of last season. How do you get that offense back to what it was, that 9-week span?
Yeah, I think I was asking myself that about week 10 or 11 last year on, So if I had the simple answer, I don't even know if I'd tell you, but I think that's the challenge, right, is how do we get back to that? And I think the fact that it was there goes to show that it was there. Let's go do it again. But at the same time, you're not entitled to anything. Nothing's going to be given to you. You got to go earn it. You got to go play well enough to make that happen. I think those 9 weeks, to the degree that we were playing well, not every week was perfect, but to the degree we were playing well, it was because we were maniacal in our preparation and our effort, and every detail we had to be on to find a way to win and to move the football. So, it was never easy in those moments either, and I think we find ourselves there again now.
The need to potentially prove it to yourself almost that you're still able to go out and do what you did in that first span?
I don't know about prove it to myself. I think it's an opportunity that is, what a privilege to be able to go out there and have a chance to play, to enjoy playing. You got to be grateful for the gift that it is to get to go out there, and I think that's kind of the perspective to have.
There's nothing else quite like playing, but what, if anything, do you bring from this time, the perspective that you had on this offense this season? What could be a real positive for you?
Well, I do think, watching from the sidelines during games gives you a different perspective than what you'd have under center on the field, and I think, you can learn from both, but you can certainly learn from the perspective of watching, and I think if anything, you can see how there's a patience you have to have playing the position or playing through a game, that it's not all going to happen right away, and you got to be patient throughout the game and let the plays come, and don't try to make something happen that isn't there, and believe that if you do that, there's enough players, it's a good enough scheme where the plays are going to be there and we'll be there at the end, and I think it's a good perspective to have.
How much confidence does it give you that you are even a part of this offense, most of the guys, Zach? Like, how does that help you going into this?
I do think continuity, familiarity matters in this league, period. And so in this situation, having, played games with Zach calling plays, having, played with the guys around me, having called the plays, used the verbiage, done the operation the way we do it here, it's a lot better than getting thrown in with a brand new team. So anytime you can build continuity, it's a lot better than the alternative.
We like having Zach down there because he wasn't down there when you were there, so he's
yeah. Yeah, no, it was good discussion even last week, during the game. Even when I'm the backup, I'll say to him, hey, you can see how this is helping us or that is helping us. And so there's good dialogue that you just wouldn't have if you have to get on the telephone to talk to him. So, he's done a good job down there on the sideline.
Do you sense a level of desperation in the locker room to try to get things right, just in the midst of this losing streak? Maybe not that word.
No, I think I feel a desperation the first day of OTAs. And I know, having watched football from an outsider perspective also, that sounds a little funny to hear, but I've just never felt safe in this league. I've never felt like I've got it figured out. I've never felt like my job has been earned or deserved. And so you kind of go out there every day with cameras watching you, coaches evaluating you, teammates counting on you, players who are competing for roles, and you just feel like I have to today play at a level that would, suggest that I belong here. And that's kind of been my lived experience for 14 years. College, I think when they give you the scholarship, you're kind of safe for 5 years. I remember saying that my rookie year. I said to a starter on our team in Washington, I said, I didn't realize they have 90 guys and they cut it to 53. I thought it was like 60 and they cut it to 53. He said, what were you, a fourth-round pick? I said, yeah, I was a fourth-round pick. He said, you're entitled to about 1 year. He goes, they'll keep you around 1 year no matter how you play because you're a fourth-round pick. He said, after that, you better prove it. So I started living that feeling of being chased, my rookie year, and I've never lost that feeling. And I heard a quarterback once say that, there's a tension that this job in professional sports brings that you don't really wish on people because it is tough. There's a tension there, but it's also a chance to live a dream that goes with it. So you take the good with the bad.
All that being said, and of course the circumstances are not ideal for anyone, but is this something that, part of you have 7 games now, do you relish the ability to have, I have 7 games to show that, I remember the last time you were at this podium, you said, I still know how to play quarterback. So are you relishing that in a small way at least?
I think it's an opportunity, and to what I've been saying a little bit, I got to play at a standard that's going to give me game 2, game 3, game 4. So I don't know that you can say from here it's 7 games. I think you go earn that with the way you play. But yeah, so I think you go out, you go game one, and I think looking past game one, the Saints and their defense and our game plan has enough for me to tackle that's kind of where I'm plenty busy focusing on.
But you have the opportunity to earn that maybe you didn't.
Sure. No, it's great. I'm grateful to have the opportunity, and that's what it is, a great opportunity, and you do all you can to take advantage of it. Let the chips fall where they may.
Sorry, you've said the word perspective a couple times now that we've been talking. How has the last year of your career really changed your perspective at all? Obviously, you've been through just about everything you can in this league at this point.
Yeah, it's been another good learning experience. I think you I don't know that I ever took football for granted, but you certainly appreciate the opportunity you have, and you just want to enjoy it. I think that's the key. I remember DJ Williams saying to me last year when I was on the scout team finishing the season, he said, I just didn't feel like you were having fun anymore, late in your stretch before we made a change. And I think it's important to, make sure you're having fun, even if the game goes tough, even if it doesn't go the way you want, that you can still find joy in what you do on a daily basis. And I believe if you do that over the long haul, you are going to get the best out of yourself and your teammates. And so that's something I've learned, is to just say, look, we got to enjoy this regardless of outcomes. We got to enjoy this and enjoy the challenge, enjoy the process of it, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Is that something you've personally been trying to work on, just getting back to feeling like you're having fun again?
Yeah, I think so. I think even going back to the off season, just trying to unpack, what we've been through and how we can be better moving forward. And I think there's a right way to have, perspective, a right way to have a perspective on it, and a wrong way. And I think that having the right one helps you bring out the best in yourself.
What do you see from the Saints just on tape? It's a team you've seen twice, but how have they evolved, and what do you see? What challenges do they present?
Yeah, you always kind of start with, okay, who's the coordinator? So Brandon Staley, different than Dennis Allen in the past, Dennis Allen was the guy when you played the Saints for years. But many of the same faces, when you look across the line of scrimmage and you see Cam Jordan and Chase Young and DeMario Davis and Pete Werner and Lante Taylor, a lot of these guys you've played against for a long time. So, there's, I guess, somewhat of a familiarity there, but it's always tough playing there as far as communication and just executing, getting everybody on the same page, playing and play out, because the environment can be a challenge, and so there's a lot of different variables there. But it's a really good defense, and I think they've played hard again this year, like they always do, and you kind of understand what you're signing up for when you go there to play the Saints and that defense. You're gonna have a challenging day regardless of the outcome.
Do you feel like when you were not having fun during the period when you were playing, that you were maybe like being your harshest critic, like maybe too hard?
Sure, yeah.
Something like that?
Oh, yeah, I think there's always high standards, and at times you have to give yourself some grace, and not try to get it all back in one play, or not try to make something up that isn't there, and just stay patient and kind of let the game come to you, even if you feel like it isn't coming to you, to still let that happen, and be okay with that if necessary. But this league will test you. It's never perfect, and so you're always learning, you're always growing, you're always making mistakes, and you're always trying to get better from it.
What does it look like when you're having fun out there, like from our perspective?
Yeah, I think it's there's a joy in competing, so it may not be necessarily me smiling, it may not be me cracking jokes, but just, even sometimes getting hit, there's a joy in like being in the fight and just being snarly. And I was watching my boys. I sent my boys up for wrestling because my wife was putting them in golf and tennis, and I wanted to be good golfers and tennis players. But I started to realize, like, if we go down this path too long, golf, tennis, we got to get the other side of the spectrum. So we signed up for the local wrestling club, and my son got thrown a few times to the ground, and he kind of looks over at me through the window, and I'm like, this is good. This is good. And so trying to teach my boys to be snarly. And it was a good reminder to me that, that's what life is. That's what playing pro football is. And there's a part of you that gets knocked down or gets pinned or whatever, and it's almost like, okay, I'm in the fight now. Let's go. Taste the blood in your mouth, if you will. So there's some of that when you play this long, you realize that you kind of enjoy, and it's I don't love the pain of getting hit, but you love kind of being in the fight.
Are you excited It's a simple question, but like hearing you talk about never taking it for granted, wanting to get hit at least a
Yeah.
few times. Are you excited
Yeah.
to get back out there?
You know, I think what excites me more than anything, my dad used to say, you don't use the position, you don't use people to advance your position. You use the position you have to advance people. And when you're the backup quarterback, you certainly have a chance to influence people, but it's different when you're starting. And so I think the opportunity to use an increased position to help build people around me is what I enjoy doing and what I'll do long after I'm done playing football. And so it's tempting in this league to try to use people to build your position. But I think the healthiest way to approach it is let me use this position, this opportunity to try to build people. And so when I look at my teammates, coaches, not saying that it's my job to do that, but just knowing that you have an opportunity to help all together kind of build something, I think that's what you get excited about is that part of it.
Did you make today's playlist by chance?
So thank you for bringing that up. Madison McDoulet is our practice DJ, and she sent out a message when I first signed with the team that if you want to submit any songs to the playlist, you can do that. So over time, I gradually submitted a few last spring. And then every so often, whether it's my birthday or today's practice, she tends to drift towards that unannounced. I did tell her I texted her saying I needed certain things with the crowd noise during practice when I step in the huddle, I'm at the line of scrimmage, that kind of a thing. So I sent her that, and maybe that cued her to then play some music too. But you get a few guys coming over saying, man, good vibes today with the music. And other guys who I don't think liked it as much. So, but yeah, I did submit most of those songs a couple of years ago, and it made my day. It was fun. It was good. Madison just picked today to be the day, I guess. So.
Anything else?
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.